Episode of the Everblack Podcast is brought to you by Deathwish, Hotrods and Kustoms. Check out their Instagram for all their new t-shirts, caps, beanies, cups, and the all-new Atomic Death lineup. Bro!
How's it going?
Good, man. Good.
Oh, man. Whoever designed this laptop I'm on is an idiot because they put the webcam at the bottom of the screen, so it just like shoots up on my face. It's stupid. Someone needs a pay cut for that one.
I don't understand that because it's traditionally always on the top, right? So
It's got to be. Yeah, I'm literally sitting with like a block of stuff on my lap to prop my laptop up so it gets a decent shot.
What is it? Is it like it's not one of them apples, is it?
Oh no, it is a Magic the Gathering deck box because I get real nerdy with it. And
hey. Right. You know, come on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I am very into Magic the Gathering. I learned how to play when I was like 13 years old. Never quit.
Other bands are doing it too, I'm noticing.
It's starting to get more and more popular, which is crazy because I'm like, I always did this and I never knew that anyone else did.
It's great. I was talking to someone recently from over your way that were playing it as well. And they were putting up photos of them backstage playing it.
I was gonna say, I know Fit for a King plays a lot.
That's it. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Fit Boys play. I Prevail plays. Some of the guys in Era play. Yeah, it's getting bigger, hopefully.
I love that it could turn into this like underground fucking fight club type thing. Like,
oh yeah,
this underground band, Magic the Gathering tournaments that no one knows about.
I just want to see like the memes that come from it, where it's like the girl and it's like, my boyfriend's probably on tour cheating, and then it's a photo of just 8 dudes playing Magic the Gathering. It's like, oh yeah, we're eating chips and salsa and playing Magic the Gathering in the green room.
It's like those memes about the, oh, sorry, it's the bass player. The girls always end up, yeah, it's like, oh no, it's the whole band now. The whole band's
yeah.
It's like, but we're like that. We're like that, man. I guess. Like, I don't know, metal dudes. We in the pictures, we're all like arms crossed, but we're the nerdiest fucking people in the world. It's just,
oh yeah. Everyone's got their promo picture face and pose. Whether it's the hands in the middle, the arms crossed, the one arm crossed. There's always something.
And there's always got to be one looking over that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. No smiles. No one smiles.
Stank face all the way. Depending on
there's always in like the outtakes of like that the photographer sends to management, whatever. There's always like the 2 photos where the one dude is just cheesing, just big smile. It's just like, why? What are you doing? You can't do this.
I love that. But man, hey, thanks for hanging out this morning. I don't know where it is, where you are. Where are you? At home?
I'm in Detroit, Michigan. It is 4:30 in the afternoon.
I'm glad you said afternoon, not morning, because I'd be like, fuck that. But yeah.
That would not be fun. That would not be.
No, not for you. But dude, We Came as Romans album Darkbloom recently dropped, and man, it's a phenomenal record, dude. I love the fuck out of it. It's so good.
Thank you.
Man,
we have been waiting forever to put it out, so I'm so stoked that we finally get to release it.
Man, 5 years. Understandably, there's been a lot happening in the past 5 years. But when did you pick up the guitar and start working on this thing?
Let's see. The oldest song on the record is Plagued, and I started writing that song almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And wrote all through like the pandemic lockdown and stuff. And so when we finally got to the studio, in what was that? I guess February of a year and 10 months ago, or however long ago that was. Yeah. We had like 30 fucking songs. We had the most songs we've ever had going into a record. And we had to like sit down and figure out what we were cutting and all that. And we had 30 songs, and we still sat down and wrote like 4 or 5 more songs after that. Just wild. But I think that's like a huge reason why the record sounds the way it does. I like wholeheartedly believe it is the best collection of songs we have ever put out, especially from a songwriting standpoint, a lyrical standpoint. And you know, it's because we had all that time to dedicate towards it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, even if there wasn't like a COVID lockdown, we probably still would have just taken the time off to do it because it was that important to us. But, you know, thankfully, I never thought I'd say this. Thankfully, because of the lockdown, you know, there was nothing else for us to do. But, you know, all bands just became online merch stores. You couldn't play shows. You know, you could only do so many live streams before your fans are like, yeah, I'm watching this on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
from
right.
your last one where you played all the same songs and nothing's different, you know? So like we did a few live streams and that was it. We mostly just wrote the record. But then because of COVID and all like the supply chain issues, you know, the record was done April of last year, but no one had vinyl to make actual physical records. There's no vinyl. And so we had to wait this long to actually put it out because we couldn't make an actual record. We couldn't make a physical record. So we were waiting until then because, you know, it's our first record now in like 5 years, but it's like, we can't just release it on like, oh, go listen on Spotify. Like, you know, we need to make physical products. We wanted to make sure that we had like lyric booklets and stuff in that because lyrically this record is so important to us. You know, we did 2 hometown shows for the release in very tiny venues, like these packed out 400 cap rooms. And after we just played the record, every song on the record, and that was it. We didn't play any other songs from any other records of ours. And then we stayed around and just signed people's stuff. And it was like the amount of vinyls and physical CDs and stuff that we signed, like I feel like I only signed like a couple t-shirts and it was mostly all vinyls and CDs. And it's like, we couldn't have done that if we didn't wait to put the record out. So
it's right. It's true. And, you know, I've mentioned this a few times where bands have said, oh, you know, like due to the supply chain thing. I went in, man, we've got our JB Hi-Fi here, which is like, yeah, I don't know what's your equal to over there, which is our, you know, the big record chain. They've got,
got it.
Fucking 50,000 copies on vinyl of like Harry Styles and Taylor Swift and shit, like blocks that have been sitting there for weeks. And yet, like, I'm like, man, I'd really like to get, you know, this album on vinyl. And it's like, oh, sorry. We like only go, you know, supply chain. It's like, I keep saying we need to take all those Harry Styles, melt them down and give them to bands that deserve it. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you know, from I guess a company that presses record that makes records, you know, it's COVID, businesses are struggling. Would you rather have a ton of guaranteed business because you're going to get paid on the pressing of a record? You don't care if it sells. So would you rather have all of that guaranteed business so your whole livelihood doesn't go under and you can still, you know, take care of your family and all that? Or would you rather, you know, fight it out for the little guys of metalcore? like I get it. It still sucks. Hard agree. Still sucked. But it makes sense, you know, especially during COVID, everyone was just making whatever decisions they could to keep their businesses afloat. And at that point, it's like, oh, you know, Adele's going to order 1 million copies of vinyl. Yeah, we'll definitely print all that instead of waiting 8 months to put out, you know, some breakdowns. It's just not going to happen.
I understand that, and I see where you're going, but those copies are still there, and I think could go to good use. Recycling.
I agree. I agree.
Less. I don't know. Don't get me. I'm going into old man metal elitist mode here, so I'll just, you know. Anyway, I'll reel back in. But one thing I wanted to mention is old man's yells at cloud. The fucking tone, the guitar tone on this album is like one of the best fucking guitar tones I've ever heard in my life. It is so huge.
Let's go. Man, that makes me feel good.
Like, yeah, incredible. Like, I, you know, listening back to your previous albums, like you've always had a sick tone, But this one it's so heavy, dude. It's just
Yeah, I think there's something too about the way that Drew Folk mixed bass in with the guitars that kind of like made this just wall of sound pushing forward, where it's like without getting like technical at it, where you're not like missing out on certain frequencies. But it's not something that you notice where you're like, oh, I can't believe I hear this frequency and this frequency and all that. It's just, oh, that sounds full. That sounds like nothing's missing, which I was just like, yeah, that's why we go to Drew Folk, because he's an actual wizard. Him and Jeff Dunn made this record sound awesome. Give them all the credit.
It is your best sounding record, I will say. Like,
I agree. Hard agree.
Amazing. Like turning it up in the car. Sometimes you get albums like you turn it up in the car and you go too far before the speaker in my old Hyundai i30 starts going fuck off.
Yeah,
man, cranking it up and it's just smooth and it makes a window shake. It's so good. So good.
Yeah. When we first got it back, I did that. I put it on in my car and just literally drove around the city I live in and just like did the old sound test of like, how loud can I turn this up before there's like no definition and I'm just getting smacked with sound. And it didn't feel like I got to that point. Even when it was loud, like I could still hear everything how I should be hearing it. And I just amazed at the talent of Drew and Jeff on that. So great job to them. I had nothing to do with mixing because I do not know how.
No, but great job for writing the riffs, man. Like the riff.
I will. Yeah, I'll take some of that. That one can go to me.
Man, so good. So good. But you also got some guests on here. You got Caleb Shomo from Beartooth.
Yep.
0930 36. I've never heard of him before this, and he's fucking awesome. I love it when you get an album and you go, oh, I've never heard of this person before, and then you're like, makes you dig through this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Zero's awesome, and his songs are sick, and it's awesome because back when we were writing Daggers, we were talking about like, oh, we want to put a guest feature over this part. Like, what are we going to do? And Drew was like, oh, I have this friend who's a rapper. He would crush this. His name's 0936. And we're like, cool. Like, I was like, I have no idea who that is, but I trust you. So he sent him the song and Zero tracked it and sent it back like super quick. It was like a half an hour. And Drew just played it in the studio to us. And like, you could almost like audibly hear our jaws hit the floor. We were just like, what like, this is so sick, especially for our band never having done anything like that before. And then rightfully so, after that happened, Zero like blew up over here. His songs were like #1 at Active Rock forever. And he's getting all these sick placements on festivals and shit. Awesome. And now he's just big, and it's awesome because he's incredibly talented. And it's just funny the way that chain of events went in my mind.
That's so cool. That's awesome. One thing I did want to ask you though is it connected to Plant a Seed, like the title at all?
Not.
It's a weird thing to sort of. I know
it's funny. It's funny because like I don't know why my band always does this plant shit. Like, we thought we would have grown out of it, but we didn't. It was completely unintentional. Andy was reading a book and he was reading about this concept of Darkbloom, where like even in the darkest, shittiest times of your life, you can still move forward, try to grow, try to make it out. And then that's where the lotus came from, is that Andy was saying that the lotus is the only flower that can bloom in the dark. It doesn't need direct sunlight to actually like blossom. And so we're like, holy shit, that's just literally what our band is right now. We're in the fucking worst times of our lives and we're trying to figure out how to push forward. And so it just like clicked. And then we're like, God damn it, another plant thing. Can we just not do this? But we're gonna do it because it makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because I was like trying to piece it together. I was going back through. I was like, what's the connection? It got me thinking. You could have told me anything then and just sent me off on a little tangent. Like I could have spent weeks just getting all haggard, just in the room here, just going, I need to figure this fucking thing out.
Yeah. See,
But
now it's just the meme with all the math symbols going around and
yeah,
trying to make the connections.
yeah, that's it. And you could have, but that's I appreciate you didn't. But the album is features Kyle's last performances as well, I believe, on keyboards, right?
So no, I've seen this a lot online where people are like, oh, like you could hear Kyle's voice at this part, or Kyle wrote these parts on keyboards and stuff. I don't know where it came from, but everyone just keeps circulating it and then believing it. And all of these songs were written well after Kyle had passed,
Okay.
and none of it was written by him. But I think a really important piece of how the record was made is kind of feeding into these fan theories, because when we did Cold Like War, Drew and Kyle really connected on production, on just how it needs to sound, what types of sounds, keyboards are doing, what types of sounds electric drums are doing, how to EQ these things, like really technical stuff, side chaining, all this stuff. And so that was like the I wouldn't say the biggest, but a massive deciding factor in going back to Drew to make this record. Not only was not only is he a great friend of mine and a friend of the band's,
Yeah.
but he really connected with Kyle on that and understood his mind and how to make the production sound that way. And so moving forward, without Kyle, we're like, okay, well, we still want to sound this way. We still want to sound how Kyle would have us sound. And really, the only way for us to do this is to go to Drew, because Drew and Kyle were on this complete level of understanding of what production and keyboards and everything needed to sound like. And so, not to mention, like, they were friends as well. So, like, involving Drew on this record that meant this much to us was like kind of extra special in that way. Um, but Drew spent a ton of time crafting the production to sound the way that it needed to, in order to keep Kyle with our music in that aspect, because I couldn't have done that. I don't know how to create keyboard sounds like that. That is not anything that is in my wheelhouse. Um, that if you were to ask me, I'd be like, oh yeah, could it sound softer? And the engineer is going to be like, yeah, I can. Like, what are you fucking saying? Like, that's not helpful. But Drew and Kyle were so connected on that he was really able to craft all of our production to sound exactly kind of how Kyle would have wanted it for our songs. And so it does sound really similar to everything that Kyle would have made for us, if he were still here. But the rumor or speculation that Kyle's voice or keyboards or any of that are actually on the record is not correct.
Oh wow. Oh, I'm so sorry if I got
Okay.
that wrong. But
I'm so offended. I'm so mad. It is completely all right.
okay.
It's
That's
I like reading that kind of stuff, that like people post on our YouTube videos and stuff, like, oh, I hear Kyle's voice in this song. And I read that and I'm like, well, that's not true. But also that's awesome that you're still thinking of Kyle and
yeah.
you're still hearing him in our music. Like, that is much more important to me than correcting you and telling you that he's not there. The fact that you think about him and you want him there and you view him as always a part of our songs is much more important to me than anything else.
I love that, man, because he still feels like through the music he's there, and that's
Yeah.
a beautiful fucking thing, man. It's so good. I love it. So
Thank you.
yeah, but mate, I think our time's running out here. I'm holding you a bit too long.
We
So
got, we got we got a few minutes, maybe like 2 or 3. I'm actually in
really,
the middle of, I think, a 2.5 hour press block right now.
oh
So
really? climbing the walls.
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah. Of course, I mean, I want to ask you about Australia. You know, we're all the way down here. Got some
I
cocktails.
I would love to get back to Australia. It is hands down my favorite overseas place to go. I love it. I think international touring is getting closer and closer to the back to normal, that it was before COVID. And as it approaches that back to normal, it's going to be much more likely and easier for bands from the States to get all the way to Australia or Japan or, Europe, Russia, anywhere. And so hopefully, I don't know, next year, maybe it's, we actually just talked about this as a band. We are looking for any opportunities we have, but it has to be the right conditions. You know what I mean? It has to be the right thing. We can't, fly to Australia to play some shows and two of them get canceled and we lose $30,000. And then we fly home and we're like, well, that was an expensive vacation. That's just ain't how it worked,
No.
So
Man, I tell you what though, like we've had a lot of your buddies down here recently. So I'm just waiting for it,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's getting closer and closer to like full on back to normal. We're just not quite there yet.
Talking about beers, you guys have your own beers now, don't you?
Yeah, we made some beers. We
beer.
we sold out of all of them and then drank the rest of them, so they're gone. But we did one time.
You've still got one or two, right? The cans.
My dad has a 4-pack. I brought him back a 4-pack. So the brewery that made it and like the meet and greet and stuff that we did, it was like right at the beginning of tour. So for the rest of tour, I'm literally like hiding a 4-pack on the bus, hoping no one will find it and drink it.
Sniff it out.
And I succeeded. I tucked it up under a bench in a little nook and brought it home and I gave it to my dad.
Man, if that was my band, I tell you what, I'd be like, I'd find the ring pull, and then I'd be like, you mother. I know that they'd smell it out. They'd be like, yeah, it's cool, bro. We'll just buy some more, and I'd be like, it's limited edition.
Yeah, it's gone. There ain't no more. Yep.
You're gonna do it again or not?
Hopefully. I mean, I don't think that anyone in our band thought that this first one would be as successful as it was. It was insane. Like we went to this brewery and drank like 2 kegs of this beer. And it was actually like packed. Like there were a ton of fans there. We were like signing stuff all night. And then we ended up like bartending and pouring beers and stuff. Like it was very cool and it went exponentially better than we thought it was going to go. So we might do it again in the future. It seemed pretty cool.
How would you rate it compared to like other band beers?
Oh, our beer was fucking awesome. So our singer Dave consulted with like their head brewer about like the things that he likes in beer, the kind of flavors, style, all that stuff. And then based on that, they brewed this IPA. It was like a hazy IPA, and it was so good. It was really good.
Man, I'm keen. I'm one day, hopefully, if you redo it and I'm over that, I'd be keen to try because I love trying that stuff. I tried Trooper, my Maiden's Trooper, and it's one of the worst things I've ever tasted in my life. Sorry, Maiden. Like I love Maiden, but fuck, dude, that Trooper was a slog. I think I've got the can here somewhere, and I was like, I drank half, and I was like, ugh.
Oh no, I dropped it in the sink and all poured out.
Yeah, Bruce Dickinson's crying in his plane. But anyway, brother, thanks so much for hanging out on the show. It's been really cool hanging out and talking all things We Came as Romans. We'll have all the links down here to the album and on the site as well. Get your ass down for some beers, bro, and we will see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Cool, man. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Take care, man. Bye.